For centuries, humanity has imagined angels as beautiful beings, with white wings and serene faces. This comforting image has dominated art, literature, and the popular imagination for over 1,000 years. But this sweet and familiar representation is far from the reality described in the original sacred scriptures. Authentic biblical descriptions reveal creatures so extraordinary and terrifying that even the prophets fell to the ground in absolute terror, losing consciousness in their presence. The original Hebrew and Aramaic texts use specific words that have been softened in modern translations. Terms like Nora, meaning terrible or causing terror, and Ayom, describing something frightful or provoking dread, have been translated simply as glorious or majestic. Indeed, this linguistic transformation has obscured the true nature of these heavenly encounters. The oldest manuscripts, including the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Alexandrian codices, preserve descriptions that defy all human logic. They speak of impossible geometries, of beings existing simultaneously in multiple dimensions, of creatures whose mere presence alters the physical reality of space-time. These are not folk tales or poetic allegories, but direct accounts from men who risked their credibility and often their lives to preserve these revelations for future generations. Today, we will discover the truth that has remained hidden, the reality that changed the history of humanity and still generates controversy in the deepest theological circles. Prepare for a journey that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the nature of the divine. At the Chebar River in Babylon, the prophet Ezekiel experienced one of the most powerful visions recorded in human history. The year 593 BC marked a moment that would forever change our understanding of heavenly beings. Ezekiel, who had been deported along with other Jewish nobles during the first Babylonian invasion, was in a state of deep meditation when the heavens opened before him, literally and supernaturally. Ezekiel's description has a technical precision that defies any attempt at merely symbolic interpretation. He speaks of living creatures moving like lightning, each with 4 distinct faces, not in temporal sequence, but simultaneously visible from any angle of observation. This characteristic implies a 4-dimensional existence that our 3-dimensional minds can barely process. The human face looked forward, representing not only intelligence and reason, but also the capacity for direct communication with humanity. This face expressed recognizable emotions, but amplified to an intensity that Ezekiel describes as burning fire. The lion's face, to the right, manifested an authority that transcends all earthly power. His eyes never blinked, and from his mouth came words that sounded like roars that could topple mountains. The ox face, facing left, symbolized not only service and sacrifice, but also the ability to bear infinite burdens without fatigue. This face displayed unwavering determination, with muscles constantly tensing as if preparing to drag the very foundations of reality. The eagle face, facing backward, represented not only speed and celestial vision, but the ability to soar to dimensions where time and space operate according to entirely different laws. Their bodies shone like bronze polished in a furnace, but this was not a reflected glow, but an internal luminosity emanating from their very essence. The temperature around these creatures was so intense that Ezekiel mentions that the air itself distorted, creating waves of visible heat. Their wings, when fully extended, covered an expanse the prophet describes as immeasurable, suggesting that these creatures could alter their size according to the need of the moment. The sound they produced was deafening, like the roar of many waters, like the voice of the Almighty speaking, like the din of a heavenly army in battle formation. But within this roar, Ezekiel could distinguish specific frequencies, some communicating precise commands, others singing praises in languages that transcended human speech, and still others that seemed to be manipulating the very fundamental forces that hold the universe together. Beneath each wing were human hands, perfect in structure, but operating with a precision that defies all earthly logic. These hands not only manipulated physical objects, but seemed to touch and shape invisible realities. Ezekiel watched as these hands moved elements he could not see, but whose effects manifested in dramatic changes in the surrounding environment. When they moved, they didn't turn their bodies as we would, but rather each face pointed them in the corresponding direction, moving moving in perfect synchronization like a divine machine with incomprehensible purposes. Their movement didn't follow the laws of physics we know. They could move up, down, forward and backward without prior rotation, suggesting they operated in a space of more than 3 dimensions where our directional limitations simply don't apply. In the Temple of Jerusalem, during the year of King Uzziah's death, approximately 740 BC, the prophet Isaiah experienced a manifestation that marked him for all eternity and radically transformed his understanding of the prophetic ministry. The historical context is crucial. Uzziah had been a prosperous king, but attempted to usurp priestly functions, ultimately resulting in leprosy. His death marked the end of an era of stability for the kingdom of Judah. At this time of national crisis, when the political future seemed uncertain, Isaiah received a vision that would show him that there exists a king who never dies and whose kingdom is eternal. There, in the most holy place of the temple, surrounding the throne of the Most High, flew the seraphim, whose name in Hebrew literally means those who burn or fiery serpents. This term is not metaphorical. These beings are composed of divine fire in their very essence. Each seraphim possessed 6 magnificent wings, but their function was very different from what we might imagine based on later artistic representations. The distribution of these wings reveals a hierarchy of priorities that reflects the very nature of the celestial realm. They covered their faces with 2 wings because not even these perfect beings, created to serve directly before the divine throne, could contemplate the glory of the Almighty unprotected. This limitation revealed that even in celestial perfection, there is a structure of reverence that must be respected. With 2 wings, they covered their feet, an act of absolute modesty and reverence before the sacred presence. In Hebrew culture, the feet represented the humblest part of the body, closest to the dust of the earth. That these celestial beings covered their feet indicates a level of humility that transcends any human concept of modesty. And with only 2 wings, they flew, constantly moving around the heavenly throne in flight patterns that Isaiah describes as dances of fire. Their song was not a gentle melody, but a declaration that shook reality itself. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. The triple repetition of holy is not emphatic, but literal. These beings simultaneously perceive the 3 dimensions of divine holiness that we can only comprehend in fragments. Each holy resonated at a different frequency, creating harmonics that affected not only the physical temple, but the surrounding spiritual dimensions. The power of this chant was so extraordinary that the temple's foundations shook. The massive stones that formed the base of the building, each weighing several tons, vibrated like leaves in the wind. Doorways moved, not by mechanical force, but by spiritual resonance. The air itself was filled with smoke, not from combustion, but from the visible manifestation of the divine presence. One of these seraphim, responding to Isaiah's confession of impurity when confronted with absolute holiness, took a burning coal from the heavenly altar. It is important to note that he used tongs to pick it up, because not even his divine hands could directly touch this sacred fire without intermediaries. This coal was not common charcoal, but condensed fire from the altar, where the spiritual sacrifices of the entire universe were consumed. When this coal touched Isaiah's lips, the prophet experienced a pain as intense as it was transformative. It wasn't simply physical pain, but the sensation that every impure word he had uttered throughout his life was literally being burned away and removed from his being. The purification process was simultaneously destructive and reconstructive, removing all impurity while strengthening his ability to communicate divine messages. What do you think about what you've seen so far? Can you imagine coming face to face with these beings? The biblical reality is just beginning to reveal itself. Long before the visions of Ezekiel and Isaiah, at the very dawn of humanity, the cherubim had already been established as the most fearsome guardians of creation. After Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden, God placed these beings at the east of paradise, wielding fiery swords that moved in all directions, forever preventing access to the tree of life. These were no ordinary swords, but expanses of divine fire that cut not only through physical matter, but also through the very intentions of the human heart. The cherubim possess a dual nature. They are simultaneously beings of indescribable beauty authority and absolute terror. Their function transcends that of mere guard. They are executors of divine justice, operating with a precision that brooks no error or misguided mercy. In the tabernacle of Moses, 2 cherubim of beaten gold spread their wings over the mercy seat, creating the most sacred space in all the earth, the place where the divine presence was tangibly manifested. Their faces looked toward each other, but their eyes were directed downward toward the sacrificial blood that covered the sins of the people. This position was not accidental, but represented their role as witnesses and executors of the atonement. The cherubim also appear as the beings who transport God's mobile throne across the heavens. Ezekiel describes them as the living base of the divine throne, moving with a speed that defies all human understanding, bringing the presence of the Almighty to any place in the universe in an instant. Thank you for staying with this video this far. I assure you the best is yet to come, because these revelations are just beginning to reveal the true nature of heavenly reality. Ezekiel's vision features one of the most disturbing and fascinating elements of the entire angelic description: the wheels or thrones, known in Hebrew as ophanim. These beings represent perhaps the most alien and incomprehensible aspect of all heavenly revelation. They are not mechanical wheels as we know them, but living entities with their own consciousness, independent will, and specific divine purpose. Ezekiel depicts wheels within wheels, intersecting at perfect angles that defy Euclidean geometry. The imagery he presents suggests structures that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, where each inner wheel rotates independently of the outer one, yet both maintain perfect synchronization, producing a hypnotic and disorienting effect for any mortal observer. Each wheel was the color of beryl, a translucent golden-green gemstone that seemed to contain its own light. But this was not the green of terrestrial plants, but a green that Ezekiel describes as the color of life itself, a hue that doesn't exist in our normal visible spectrum. This inner light pulsed with a rhythm the prophet likened to the heartbeat of the universe, a frequency that seemed synchronized with the most fundamental cycles of creation. But the most striking and disturbing thing about these wheels was that their entire circumference was completely filled with eyes. We're not talking about a few decoratively arranged eyes, but thousands upon thousands of eyes of varying sizes, each perfectly formed, never blinking, and seeing everything simultaneously. These eyes didn't follow a symmetrical pattern, but were arranged organically, like cells in a living tissue. Each eye had a specific and unique function. Some observed the past, others the present, and others the many future possibilities. Some perceived the physical dimensions we know, while others focused on invisible spiritual realities. There were eyes that monitored the prayers of the saints, others that watched for the movements of demons, and others that observed the fulfillment of unfolding prophecies. Ezekiel noticed that these eyes didn't move randomly, but rather followed coordinated attention patterns. When one eye detected something significant, other eyes immediately gravitated toward the same point, creating waves of attention that propagated around the entire circumference of the wheel. This coordination suggested a collective intelligence operating at speeds exceeding any known information processing. The sound these wheels produced was multifaceted and constantly changing. Ezekiel describes it as the roaring of many waters, but also as the murmur of countless voices speaking simultaneously in different languages. There were low frequencies that made the ground vibrate, mid-range frequencies that seemed to communicate specific information, and high frequencies that resonated directly in the observer's spirit. When the wheels moved, they did so without rotating in the traditional sense, but rather moved instantly in any direction necessary. There was no acceleration or deceleration, no gradual changes in speed or direction. One moment they were in one position, and the next they were in a completely different position, with no visible transition process. The reason for this extraordinary mobility was that these wheels followed the spirit of the living creatures. Wherever the spirit wanted to go, the wheels went instantly. This spiritual connection transcends any concept of communication or coordination we can comprehend. There was no delay between intention and execution. There was no need for signals or commands. When they stopped, they lowered their wings, structures Ezekiel describes as ethereal extensions that seemed to connect the wheels to other dimensions. In that that moment of absolute silence, when all the deafening noise of their movement ceased, a voice was heard from the expanse above their heads. It was the voice that commanded not only these extraordinary creatures, but all of creation, visible and invisible, the voice that had spoken the worlds into existence. On the island of Patmos, the Apostle John received the most complete revelation of the final events of human history. Among these apocalyptic visions are angels, whose descriptions surpass even those of Ezekiel in terms of complexity and supernatural power. John describes angels who control the fundamental elements of nature, the angel who has power over fire, emerging from the heavenly altar with the authority to burn a third of the earth, the powerful angel who descends from heaven wrapped in a cloud, with a rainbow on his head, his face like the sun, and his feet like pillars of fire. This being places one foot on the sea and the other on the land, claiming all creation for his Lord. The four angels who are bound beside the great Euphrates River, prepared for the specific hour, day, month, and year when they will be released to kill a third of humanity. These are not arbitrary executors of violence, but instruments of divine justice, operating according to timelines established before the foundation of the world. The angel who holds the key to the bottomless abyss, capable of opening and closing the dimensions where the most terrifying creatures ever imagined dwell. When he opens the abyss, smoke rises like the smoke of a great furnace, obscuring the sun and the air. From this smoke emerge locusts with the power of scorpions, but with human faces, hair like a woman's, teeth like lions, and armor like iron. The angel standing in the sun calls out in a loud voice to all the birds flying in the sky, inviting them to God's great banquet, where they will feed on the flesh of kings, captains, and powerful men. This image reveals that even the birds of the sky obey these celestial beings in the fulfillment of divine judgments. The Bible reveals that angels are not all equal, but rather that there exists a perfectly organized celestial hierarchy where each order has specific functions and clearly defined levels of authority. This structure is not arbitrary, but reflects the need to manage a universe of infinite complexity. The Apostle Paul, in his letters to the Ephesians and Colossians, mentions these angelic ranks: principalities, powers, thrones, dominions, virtues, cherubim, seraphim, and archangels. Principalities hold positions of rule over specific nations, territories, and ethnic groups. Their authority transcends human political boundaries and extends across millennia of history. The book of Daniel reveals one of the most dramatic instances of this hierarchy in action. The prince of Persia resisted the archangel Gabriel for a full 21 days, preventing him from delivering a crucial prophetic message to the prophet. This resistance was not a simple administrative delay, but a real conflict between celestial forces of comparable power. The text suggests that these principalities have the authority and capacity to influence the development of entire civilizations, determining the rise and fall of empires according to plans beyond human understanding. Each principality intimately knows the history, culture, language, and destiny of the peoples under its jurisdiction. The powers control the fundamental forces of nature and the physical laws that govern the universe. They don't simply observe these phenomena, they actively direct them. They are responsible for maintaining the constancy of the speed of light, the stability of planetary orbits, the delicate balance of the nuclear forces that hold atoms together, and the climatic cycles that sustain life on Earth. When the powers intervene directly in human history, they do so through events we call miracles, but which to them are simply normal exercises of their natural authority. The parting of the Red Sea, the fire that did not consume the burning bush, the sun that stood still for Joshua, and the laws of physics that were suspended during Christ's resurrection, all these events required the direct involvement of the powers. The thrones, which we have already described as the eye-filled wheels of Ezekiel's vision, represent divine justice in its purest and most implacable form. They are the beings who execute the decrees of the heavenly tribunal, operating with a mathematical precision that brooks no error, partiality, or misguided mercy. Every decision they make is calibrated with absolute precision, taking into account every relevant variable in the universe. Their role as executors of divine justice means they are constantly evaluating the actions, thoughts, and intentions of all conscious beings. The thousands of eyes that cover their surface are not merely organs of observation, but instruments of judgment that weigh every action on the scales of perfect justice. The dominions oversee the lower orders of angels, functioning like a perfectly disciplined military chain of command. Their authority extends over legions of lesser angels, ensuring that each being fulfills their specific role in the grand cosmic plan. They are like supreme generals in an army, where each soldier knows their exact mission and executes it without question, yet also without losing the creative initiative necessary to adapt to changing circumstances. The virtues are responsible for the events we humans perceive as extraordinary miracles. While the powers maintain the natural order, the virtues are authorized to temporarily suspend these laws when the divine plan requires it. They are the ones who provided the supernatural power for Jesus to walk on water, multiply the loaves and fishes, and raise the dead. The cherubim, in addition to their role as guardians of Eden, are bearers of divine knowledge and protectors of sacred wisdom. Each cherubim possesses a comprehensive understanding of specific aspects of creation, from the molecular structure of matter to the behavioral patterns of distant galaxies. The seraphim, at the apex of this hierarchy, specialize in purification and sanctification. Their immediate proximity to the divine throne enables them to transmit God's holiness throughout all creation. They are the primary agents of spiritual transformation, capable of purifying not only individuals, but entire nations when necessary. This hierarchical structure reveals that the heavenly kingdom operates as a perfect government, where authority flows from the top down in unwavering chains of command. Each angel knows his exact place in this structure and never attempts to usurp a position that does not belong to him. The rebellion of Lucifer and 1/3 of the angels represents the only historical exception to this perfect harmony, an event that shook the very foundations of heavenly reality. During the early centuries of Christianity, artists attempted to faithfully depict biblical descriptions of angels, creating works that reflected their true, extraordinary, and often terrifying nature. However, as the church expanded and began to evangelize populations unfamiliar with these revelations, the need arose to make the heavenly message more accessible. Emperor Constantine, by making Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire in the 4th century, significantly influenced this transformation. Artists began to depict angels with more familiar and less intimidating characteristics, drawing inspiration from images of Greek and Roman gods that were already familiar to the population. The influence of Renaissance art completed this metamorphosis. Artists such as Raphael, Michelangelo, and Leonardo da Vinci created angelic depictions that prioritized idealized human beauty over biblical accuracy. These Renaissance angels, with their serene faces and swan-like wings, became the standard we know today. The medieval church also contributed to this transformation for understandable pastoral reasons. The original depictions of multi-faced beings, wheels filled with eyes, and fiery swords could generate terror rather than devotion among the faithful. The intention was to draw people closer to God, not drive them away through fear. However, this softening of angelic imagery had unintended consequences. Many believers developed a limited understanding of divine nature, imagining a heavenly realm too similar to the earthly world. The true majesty and power of these beings was lost, along with the sense of absolute reverence they should inspire. Some theologians argue that this transformation was necessary for mass evangelization, while others maintain that it deprived humanity of a deeper and more accurate understanding of spiritual reality. The truth is that the original biblical descriptions remain intact, waiting to be rediscovered by each new generation of truth seekers. Every recorded encounter between humans and biblically accurate angels produces reactions that reveal the true nature of these extraordinary beings. We find no instance in Scripture where a human has reacted calmly or indifferently to their presence. Responses range from absolute terror to involuntary worship, but never tranquility. When the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary to announce that she would be the mother of the Messiah, his first words were, "Do not be afraid," indicating that the young woman's natural reaction had been fear. Daniel, upon seeing the angel by the Tigris River, lost all his strength. His face became disfigured, and he fell face down on the ground. Even John, the beloved disciple, upon seeing the glorified Lord on Patmos, fell at his feet as if dead. These were not cowardly or superstitious men. They were individuals specifically chosen for their spiritual fortitude and their ability to withstand extraordinary revelations. Their reaction of terror reveals that they were in the presence of beings whose power completely transcended any previous human experience. The Roman soldiers guarding Jesus' tomb fainted like dead men when the angels appeared at the resurrection. These were warriors trained to face death in battle, but they were completely incapacitated by the angelic manifestation. The biblical text says they trembled with fear, an involuntary physical reaction that reveals the impact these beings have on the human nervous system. However, along with terror comes an irresistible attraction to the divine. The shepherds of Bethlehem, after the initial shock, immediately ran to find the child the angels had announced. Isaiah, after being purified by the seraph, exclaimed, "Here I am, send me," volunteering to be a divine messenger. This duality between terror and adoration reveals something profound about human nature. We were created to relate to the divine, but in our current state, we cannot endure that reality unprepared. Angels are like windows into a dimension of power and purity that our souls recognize as home, but that our mortal bodies cannot fully process. The biblical descriptions of angels confront us with a reality that challenges our imagination and transforms our understanding of the spiritual universe. These extraordinary beings, with their multiple faces, wings of fire, wheels filled with eyes, and unimaginable powers, represent a dimension of existence that operates according to laws completely different from those we know. Their presence in Scripture is neither decorative nor symbolic, but evidence of an active, organized, and constantly involved heavenly realm in human affairs. Every detailed description, every reaction of terror and adoration recorded by the prophets invites us to reconsider our perceptions of spiritual reality and our relationship with the divine. These revelations show us that the universe is far more complex, mysterious, and magnificent than our finite minds can fully comprehend. Biblically accurate angels are windows into this expanded reality, reminding us that we are part of something infinitely greater than our everyday earthly experience. What do you think about these extraordinary revelations? Does it change your perspective on the nature of the divine and our relationship with the heavenly realm? Leave us a comment sharing your thoughts and experiences. If this content has impacted you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more revelations that challenge our understanding of reality. And don't miss our next video, where we'll explore the hidden mysteries of the Book of Enoch and the revelations the Church chose not to include in the official biblical canon.